Good to start. The time is 6:02. I'll start us with roll call. Maureen Lyons,
Here.
Leanne Minky. Here. Dave Nago.
Here.
Eric Kinkley
Here.
and VG. Here. Okay, you have a quorum. You're good to start. The first item on the agenda we kept from the last meeting was to appoint a committee chair, if you guys are ready to do that. If not, we can table and move to the next meeting, but it's totally up to the membership present.
What does the committee chair do?
So the committee chair, according to Robert's Rules of Order, is responsible for the agenda. So the committee chair would set the agenda for the committee and preside over the meeting. So the committee chair would call for motions and kind of lead the direction of conversation for all your different items.
So we're following Robert's rules here.
Correct.
We have not all met around the table. I don't know what, my opinion is maybe we should hold off until we have everybody. Don't have Kim. And I think we still have one empty spot.
So theoretically, on paper, you don't have any vacancies. However, you will have a vacancy that will need to be filled. So you will have a new member at some point, hopefully soon. We've talked to her.
Newell?
Yes.
Yes. So I mean, we can take action as a committee without having a chair.
Mhm.
I don't want to push this too far off, but I would, hate to make a decision for people who haven't even made it to the
I
table.
agree with you.
I would agree.
As long as, Lauren, you don't mind doing the agenda until. that time.
No, and if there's a meeting I can't attend, one of you can fill in. There's nothing stopping you from
I
having.
don't
an
know how to
acting.
do that.
No, I would get someone to come do this for you, or Eric maybe would pinch hit around and help me.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll table this to a future meeting and hopefully we'll have full membership soon, but you're up to 6 out of 7 members, which isn't bad considering where you started 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago.
Right.
You're in good shape.
Is there a formal resignation from Newell?
No. So, I know you talked to Heather for the last couple days and I think he's sending one in, right?
So I'll just interject here.
Yeah, sorry.
Newell had sent the resignation letter to the committee, but he hadn't sent it to the town clerk's office. So when Heather called me yesterday and said, okay, so he thinks he's resigned, but he hasn't resigned. So I sent an email to him saying, okay, you need to make the official thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't get that out to him until this morning, and just said, it doesn't have to be long, it just has to be official and sent to James that says that you've resigned from this committee.
And does that in turn have to be approved by council and then
They don't-
appointed to a new?
They don't have to approve his resignation,
Because
because
Just-
once
just
he
the
hands it in,
appointment.
he's resigned. But
Yeah,
they
just
would
a new
have to
appointment.
approve
Okay.
an appointment. So if you guys know somebody who should take a citizen's position,
it usually comes to the council, but if someone resigns.
What are you gonna say? We're not accepting it.
Yeah.
Go back.
So I just wondered if it couldn't be official until you had approved the resignation.
Or just acknowledged it?
Good
Yeah.
question.
I think it has to, the first step is to get it to the town clerk.
No,
I
that's-
think it's just the town clerk.
Well, he presents it to the council.
It does go
In
before
effect.
council and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave
I was
knows.
gonna say, I thought they get a list of things.
They do get a list of openings and people, and sometimes it goes as quick as we've received a resignation from person X and we're recommending person
No,
Y.
and I understand that I mean, like you said, who are they gonna say, no, you can't resign? But my concern was that I know that they have a meeting that was canceled, so you're off a little bit farther in terms of whether we could get somebody new on.
That's why I'm saying, if you know of anybody, get it going now.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is to get into the work of your committee, discussing what you would like to present to the town council. So, Maureen sent out some documents this week, and I've copied them, we copies for everyone.
Okay, if I may say something before we get into
Yeah.
that. I have been in touch with our consultants, the people who have been working for us. And unfortunately, it took a while for them to respond to my initial outreach. And Leslie Berger said that she and the architect are interested in pursuing the relationship with us at this juncture. So I sent a second email saying, please advise some dates, because, you know, she's busy, he's a busy architect, and then he has an associate that's always at the meetings, and I haven't heard. So that's where we're at standstill at the moment, but we need to meet with them. And one of the requests that I asked of her was, well, first of all, we're gonna need some revision with our renderings. But I asked if they would be willing to actually do the presentation. I think we talked about this at our meetings, to create the presentation for us, and obviously what the costs would be. So
Yeah.
I need dates and then that information, so. But that meeting with her and Andrew would be with our facilities committee on the board. Unless, I don't think it would be with this body
Well-
at the moment.
To piggyback on what you were just saying, and because I have the knowledge from being on the board, there are things that have to be changed that the facilities committee wanted to have changed.
Right.
However, I hesitate to keep the relationship still over there with facilities, simply because of the time frame that we're dealing with in this committee. I mean, if they can't meet with facilities till, say, 2 weeks from now.
Well, I told her sooner than later. I said it's gotta be, I gave her that June deadline.
Because then once they have the turnaround time, then they'd have to come into this. So we're probably, let's just say it takes them 2 weeks to put together whatever they get for facilities. We're talking now, we're at the end of May.
I just don't, I'm really concerned about double dipping and
Well, and maybe, I don't know this question or the answer to this question, but if the movement, the payment to those consultants, though they are contracted with the town.
right.
So can we just continue on with the same contract, but they move?
Oh, yeah, I
committees?
don't think it would be a new contract
No,
or
but
anything.
what I'm saying is that, it's not a matter of double dipping, I don't think, because I think whatever work they'll do in one place, it translates to the other, is that correct?
When I say double dipping, I don't want convoluted information with,
Oh, I'm
So
sorry,
many
I thought you
people.
meant, I
Yeah,
thought
I
you meant.
would-
under the
I would
use.
Yes.
suspect that you may not want to get another group involved, because if they have some changes they want, you know, that could take some time going back and forth there before it even gets back to us, make a decision on. And in knowing our timeline,
please, I've got my library hat on.
understood,
We can't, I don't think this body can make those unilateral changes because the origination is with the board of directors. So, I mean, you know, majority rules, this is my opinion. If you want to just have a joint, you know, if the facilities committee wants to meet with this body and do it all at once, but there are issues within the facilities committee that are board related also.
So the facilities committee, is that a public entity? Are your meetings open to the public?
No, it's a committee meeting,
So
Our board- our board
was-
meeting.
I
board
was-
meeting, but
yeah.
it's not a recorded meeting or anything like
So-
that.
We are a public, not me, but all of you
Mhm.
are a public committee. If you were to hold a joint meeting, which technically the joint meetings are the
It would
same, they
have
don't
to be,
exist. It would have to be this committee holding the meeting and inviting in the other committee to be a part of the conversation. So it would have to be recorded and open to the public. Just putting that out there that we would have to, because we're a public entity, we would have to follow those public rules.
So have we taken, I know the facilities had questions, concerns, updates. Have those been given to Andrew and?
No, we haven't gotten to that point. So what I would like to do, you know, and this will be my homework for tomorrow, light a fire under Leslie. And tell her that we need to have an immediate meeting to discuss what the facilities wants them to do, so that we can then turn it over to this board.
And that's fine.
And the library board and the facilities committee understand that this is the body that makes the decision and does the presentation to the council. And
My only concern just generally is time.
yeah.
It may seem like a lot,
absolutely,
but-
it's,
And certain, like the council only meets at certain times. Well, they used to, I think, well, I've had
Special meetings.
3 meetings in different parts of town, even this morning,
but I
and yet
guess
another
my-
meeting.
my
And we're gonna have
point
another one on
is,
Monday, so.
the facilities committee of the board has to get this in order.
Yeah.
With our consultants. We can't just go to the consultants and say, well, here are the concerns from the committee, without the committee having any more input and do your thing. I think, I know we all have to work together, and we are and will, but I don't want there to be any contention.
Would it be feasible, just because thinking of the timeline and the kind of time crunch that we're in to get this referendum question to the state? Would it be, do you all feel that it's feasible for the facilities committee or the facilities subcommittee of the library board to meet with the consultants and have a final plan to present to us by the middle of May? So then that gives all
So give
of
them a
you-
timeline.
Give them
Yeah,
a deadline
I think we
because,
have to give them a
yeah,
deadline.
you absolutely
because
have to, I agree.
the timeline for all of, for this committee is presentation to the council by the end of June.
End of
The
June.
council has the month of July to call public hearings, meet with
Right.
bond council, do their due diligence, and get the question to the Secretary of State's office by August.
August.
Lauren, I have another question, or just in general. I know last time we talked about the 8-24 potential.
Yes, so I had Janet reach out to bond council. I don't have an answer yet. I don't believe we're going to. However, I talked to James about how we can do this all concurrently. And we can still take this to referendum if the 824 review is in process. And the question will just say pending review of it by the TPC.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the,
it's not gonna hold it up, but I'm still not 100% certain that we even need to do it.
right, so here's the thing, so thinking about it. If an 8-24 isn't required. If 8-24 is required, it's fine, because we're considering it, the town's considering it public land, their improvement. If it is not, it will likely require a site plan approval through the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay.
So that's gonna be a site plan that's above and beyond your architectural plans.
Yeah.
VG, just to give you a quick background, the library board of trustees, the library is a 501c corporation, an entity,
Not
private property sort of. We don't belong to the town in a sense, in that respect. In 1939, there was an agreement that this is how it would be, but the town would take care of operational items, so budget, cutting the grass, you know, that
maintain and
kind of thing.
improve. Words.
So I don't think that a site plan approval would hold up the referendum, but it's something that you will have to go through, and it's gonna be an incurred cost at some point.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have to hire basically an engineer, not an architect, to develop the site plan.
We had to do that
Get
for the
this.
parking lot, even though it was a lease.
Understood, so. And it's possible, I mean, that you could ask, maybe engineering staff, town could,
Who did it? Did we use the town engineering department?
Gary was involved.
Yeah, but we didn't hire an independent engineer. did
Well, we had a plan from, what's his name, the architect left me. Yes, our Kerry, thank you.
Oh,
Um,
from the town,
But it's okay.
Yeah.
I don't like to like break the
Architect.
rules.
No,
but,
I could see him standing there with,
Yeah.
or Carrie Cuisin, whatever, and the whole
Yeah, yeah.
thing there.
Quisenberry,
But we ended up, the town modified it because we actually had things. And I don't know whether because it was the town lease or whether it was because the town was maintaining it. But some of the things that were required for private, like certain plantings and ecological drainings and things like that,
Yeah,
we
so.
waived because the town didn't have to do it, but
right, it
we
was for
still had to
LAD
get waived,
requirements.
yeah.
Okay, let's pick a date here for our May deadline.
I don't know if it, I'm just throwing it out there, I mean, you don't have to do it by me, I am away from the 11th to the 22nd. So if we, I trust the library board to come up with whatever they want for facilities, I've been involved since the beginning, or this new beginning, shouldn't say the beginning goes way beyond me, but, if we could do the final date for them so that our meeting, I would like to be back for, wherever this meeting is.
Well, but we'll meet while you're away.
That's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. I've heard the back and forth. I know what the other is. I'm basically compliant with whatever the board can come up with. Some of the steps that we're
So
arguing is nitpicky.
Here's what I want. Give me a date that I can say to facilities it has to be done by.
What would our meeting dates in May be? If we're going on the same, what we've kind of been doing?
23rd is a
Thursday.
Yeah, if we're looking at
Thursday.
Thursdays, yeah, it would be the 9th and the 23rd.
And you would just be,
Oh, that's
Yeah.
fine. That's-
Well, actually, I fly in late the 21st. I called it the 22nd because I'm not gonna be home till early morning.
The
but whatever.
23rd, as I mentioned, is my birthday, but I will be calling in from Northampton because it's also my 50th college reunion.
Oh,
so,
good for you.
So just, I will, I will be,
Busy.
I should be able to make the meeting, but
Mhm.
it'll be, I'll be virtual.
I mean, I can try and make
I
that
have the
meetings
day
while I'm
off,
away,
so-
but I'm gonna be in
But I
parks,
potentially can
national
come up.
parks, so I don't know what my ability will be.
and that deadline is for,
Us to meet.
I think we want them to have the
Something to
final
us by
plan,
then.
so
For
we can move forward.
our consultants to have.
I would say, I'm sorry,
plan.
I'm coming in halfway
No,
because
no,
we're
go
having a
ahead.
side come over here too. If we had it due by the 17th of May,
Right,
then that gives you only one day when you're back, but a few days for the rest of us.
right.
to
I'm
review before
relatively
the
conversant
23rd.
with what's been going on though, so I do
Yeah.
have that advantage.
Yeah,
All I have to do is go back and look at changes.
So we would have the facilities plan deadline by the 17th.
Yeah. and then that would give the rest of us, 4 business days to review before
That's
the.
Right,
That's
and
the
then,
17th, it's due to this board for review.
Yes.
right,
Yeah.
and then,
And then the
And we meet on
consultant
the
is,
23rd.
yeah, and then we meet, and then we're gonna have to get the consultant in gear there to get that presentation prepared to do it sometime in June, right?
by,
Yeah,
You have no choice.
what,
It has to be
what,
done.
do you meet in the summer?
Unlike the Board of Ed, we meet every 2 weeks unless
So
it's
what would the
canceled for
June
some
meeting
reason.
be? What days do you meet?
Second,
Tuesdays?
second Tuesday and the fourth Tuesday of every month.
So it'd be the 11th and the 25th, so from
23rd.
23rd to the 11th.
I mean, I suspect if you get a hold of the architect, they can be working on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
presentation.
Let's make it the 11th.
Because they know things come to the council. But usually unless there's a waiver of some sort, which they try to avoid, then it becomes old business and it's acted upon if need be.
well, and you have to call a public hearing for this.
Right,
So we
yeah.
would
Yeah, so we
present
need
it to
all
the
that time.
council
Yeah.
as new business on the 11th. Ask them to start their due diligence process and also ask them to
Call
call
for
a
the
public
public
hearing
hearings.
for the 25th of June.
Because we also have to make sure we get it in time for the agenda settings and all the other.
Posted and all that.
Okay. And, VG, just to give you some background, you see all this information. We have bones. We need some refinement, we need some costing information. One thing we didn't cover originally, and it's in the scheme of things, I imagine minor for the architect, to allow for different types of public bathrooms because of gender issues and stuff. So, you know, that would just be.
Was there any discussion of neutral bathrooms? Gender neutral bathrooms?
Well, this is something we would have to present, and the only reason it came, you know, before, I don't know why we all never thought about it, because of our 5K race. A race patron and participant approached the library about gender issues and proper terminology, et cetera, for application and everything. So that's something that was not addressed, you know, just the standard male, female restrooms were in the original plan. So that's, I mean, that's something I think pretty easily taken care of on paper.
In the course of things, as we advance through this process, assuming we get to the point where we've got a referendum that's approved, as it moves forward, what's going to happen is exactly those kind of things, because this is a moving target. Much like COVID changed a lot of what originally was laid out here, requirements that we now take for granted that we have to take care of were not even in the scheme of things 5 years ago. So as this moves along and as laws change and as society changes various things, these are things that's what you're paying your architect for.
Oh, yeah.
And they are up to date on these kind of things.
Yes, and these types of details will really come from the next iteration of the
Mhm.
building.
Mhm.
Right.
When it goes beyond us, yeah.
Will this first presentation though include some basic costing? Like,
It
what
has-
we-
yeah,
Yes,
okay.
so, yes, and the referendum question is on the funding.
Is on the
Will be,
funding, yeah,
shall
that's what I
the
was thinking.
town bond an amount? And shall we approve the project in the total amount? So that's what actually is going to go to the public to vote on, not the specifics
Specific
of what is in the
details,
building,
right,
but
right.
just, we would like to renovate the building. We would like it to include certain specific things, and in order to do that, the cost is this much money.
But once it passes all that stuff and it goes to referendum and they say, okay, it's gonna be cost $5, then there can be changes after that.
Right,
Is the norm
because,
of
you know,
projects.
they approve the bond, and then once you go out to bid,
And you find
Right.
out
Then
you
you can't
can't
pay
pay
for
for
what
you
you
find out where you really are.
Yeah.
And then things shift.
Right, exactly. 'cause
But,
you-
but in terms of referendum, you can't, it's advisable not to have too many questions. You
Not to
can't.
have too many specifics either.
Yeah,
because
because
at the end,
actually-
you're obligated to them because.
Yeah.
Oh, because people
And you're
visualize
obligated
it.
to the cost. You wanna spend $4,
As we know what happened
and
with
there's
the
a
town
plan
hall.
that's,
You
will
can't,
be
you
shown
can't,
them,
yeah.
as opposed to someone saying, well, I want a balcony on the second floor, I want all kinds of extraneous things. It's just you're voting for an amount of money to be bonded, whatever, to pay for a renovation
Right.
and
And
to
even-
stay within the concept of that.
Right, and even the conceptual design that is approved and for the referendum can change. You know,
That's just
that-
meant to give people an idea, not what you are voting
This is
on.
what it could.
It's what it could look like. Yeah,
the
makes
word
sense.
conceptual is pretty important.
By the way it's written, will be. Yeah.
Okay.
So moving this forward then, with this timeline, I think it would be appropriate for this body to send something to the library board facility subcommittee, just saying that we've met, giving them that deadline of May 17th. And then are there any caveats that you would like them, or any concepts or ideas that you would like them to incorporate into their conversation?
Mhm.
Is there anything that this committee would like to see specifically on what's presented to us on the May 23rd?
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that I would have to do as the board had. Send this to facilities, and I didn't send, they know that I've been in touch with Leslie and company, but they're not aware of the details yet, but they know what the reasoning is. I mean, facilities has met right along, and the board board is involved.
The notice that she speaks of, I think, comes from this
I was gonna
committee
say, yeah,
to the library board that
Right.
says
yeah,
we want this information by such and such a date.
yeah.
And because of the timeline for the for the potential of going to referendum, it must be to us by such and such, which then in turn throws it back into facilities lap to chase down Leslie, Andrew, et cetera, and get it done before then.
And part of the confusion here, I think, is that Maureen has the enviable position of being chair of facilities and committees on the library
Yes.
board. So she's
She's
getting
just been
perhaps confused.
Yeah. So definitely help us
confused.
relay it, but let us be the, be the bearer of that news.
So-
Also, let this whole
You
body.
want that missive to come from me?
No, I think it can come from this whole committee. I'll
Yes.
draft something
Okay.
And then
tomorrow.
as
and
the
send it out.
chairperson of the
Yeah.
library,
Yes.
you
You'll
tell
be
the
receiving
library,
it, and
we've
you'll
had
send-
meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And this
okay,
is
well,
the
that's my
timeframe,
question.
this
Does
is
it
what
come
we
from?
That way you're not
Maureen
hung with it.
Lyons
You're
or-
not, you're not hung
It's
with it.
coming from us.
It's everybody.
You turn around and say, they told us that we have to. The fact that you're a member of they.
You can say, that's it. They all voted against me.
Ask
You
them
know,
for
I'm not afraid or anything. I
No, but
just wanna make
but that
sure
way
the
you can
protocol
put
is
the,
correct.
you can put the
That's
two
all.
separate hats on. Not try and wear them at the same
Thank
time.
Yeah. So I'll send out a draft tomorrow, and then if anyone wants to add any specifics to it, we can do that
Perfect.
through email.
And we probably, like Lauren said, you know, we probably want to make sure, that, you know, we have a hard cost number that we're looking at, you know,
Yeah.
because that's going to be the most important thing. You know, doesn't matter, you know, the picture is pretty and everything. It's going to get tweaked in the end. It's that
Yes.
number. That's
But
that
it's-
number
yeah,
that's the
what-
important thing.
What amount are you bonding or
To build what
appropriating that
what
have to
you
live
want,
within?
what will it cost?
And,
Yeah.
the facilities committee and the board, our thought is that the presentation to the council should not be a volume, you know, it has to be, it has to cover everything, but it has to be succinct.
Right. And it's also possible that the presenters may want to be available during the public hearing process as well to answer questions.
Oh, yeah, at least
So
the
just-
architect.
Right, just to make sure that they understand that there
Yeah.
may be questions that the facilities committee or this board won't be able to
And they're
answer.
willing to do that.
Great.
I think the initial meetings probably would be Zoom, but then certainly, you know, it'll be clear to them, made clear to them that at least Andrew, the architect, has to physically be at the council meeting or his representative. Okay. Thank you.
I
How
have,
are we paying for this?
this comes from the town, from the.
Well, we have to
contract.
see we have to see what they come back. We're asking them, how much is it gonna cost to do this extra stuff?
Right, but somewhere
then-
we have to figure out.
And if we have a contract that has about, you know, I don't know what the contract
I
with
think it's
them
like
is.
35 grand left.
And we
in the
still have
house.
some money left in the pot.
I think it's
So
about 35 grand left.
hopefully that would cover it, otherwise the board has to go to the drawing board.
No,
For
town-
Oh, this is the town.
it's
For
town.
the town?
This is the
Oh,
town.
this would,
Once, yeah, I would be I would be in agreement that once they present us with that document or renderings on the 17th of May, this becomes this committee's
Okay.
cost and project. If there's still money in a town line item to use for it, great, but we should look into encumbering funds.
Technically, if we
Is
really
the
want to
library
go all the way,
money?
but no, it's not. It's, we call it LARC. I'm sorry, I've been on this committee too long because before we were Library Additions and Renovations Committee, LARC. And when we were on and Noel was the chair and what have you, we had an allocated amount of money that the library has been utilizing
from the town.
from the town to pay for the services
Mhm.
of Berman and whatever. So technically, those monies are under the auspices of this committee already.
Great,
And I believe it's 35,000 remaining.
I know we
I'll-
had 30-something left.
I'll look into it and get everybody back the actual amount that's left.
But that would be where the funding is. I
Yeah.
said the contracts are always already in place with the town. So it's not like we're.
Do you remember
reinventing the
what
wheel.
we've spent so far?
No, because I didn't write those checks. The town wrote them, for some reason,
No,
Yeah, I don't
more
think it was
explain-
anywhere near a $30,000.
no,
Figure.
we had
We had a couple go-runs.
we had a couple of go-rounds back and forth, and one, I thought the first one was in the realm of 20 odd. And then the newer updates were like 10, and then the most recent incarnation, when they do the lip book and everything else, wasn't that around 17? But I have to go back and go through my paperwork. That's from memory.
Right.
Concept design revisions might have been around $6,550. And
She has it right there.
Approximately.
Approximately.
Around $13,300.
Yeah. That was the most
One more
recent.
mess when it comes, she didn't want me, she wanted.
That
my
was the
laptop.
most.
So that's what we've spent to
No,
date. you
no,
think?
that was
Or
the
no?
most
That was
recent.
latest. That was
So
the
it
most
wasn't
recent.
17, it was 20 odd.
And before
Okay.
that, I think it was $10,000, with that, or another
Alright.
$15,000 on top of this. I'd have to dig a little further.
I think you have to go back to the
So
first,
hopefully
the
what we
first,
have left in the
Yeah, but
coffers will
Janet can
cover
tell us.
that.
Do we know the vendor? I'm trying to.
it's Berman, hold on.
Is it
It's Andrew Berman Architect, but we paid,
LDS,
LBS.
Library Development Solution, so. I should know it like the back of my hand.
Hold on, that's another pile.
Library Development, Allen Burger.
Yeah,
Yep,
Leslie,
well, it's
it's
Leslie now,
Allen.
Burger is the company.
They're both of them on there.
We've been working with Leslie most.
Just as a thought, and this is from a personal aspect, I wondered if the committee members who are not involved on the library, I know Dave, you wear so many hats, but if the two of you had an opportunity to go through the stuff that got sent.
Yeah, I've looked through it, yep.
I looked at it.
And did you have any thoughts or questions? Because those are things that if you're having the questions, we should probably have the facilities committee address them.
I have to go through it with the idea of questions. The first time I was just going through it with like basic, okay, what is it that I've been sent?
Gotcha,
But I'll
gotcha.
go through it again and see.
I'm,
if I have
I'm just
questions.
thinking if we're gonna have facilities do that work,
To have us
If
review
you're
it, or
seeing
are you
questions-
comfortable?
Yeah.
Do you understand what the pictures mean when you see the?
I'm understanding the
diagrams and
pictures. The
stuff.
one question I can remember having was, there's a friend's office. I'm not
Yes.
sure what the friend's office is.
Friends of the Library are our fundraising group. They're
Okay.
an entity. And
they collect all the old books, they have the book sale, so
They
they
run
need
the
a
book sale,
physical
yeah.
location.
I just didn't know what it was. Like,
they
that was like,
all our programming. Every library has friends. Ours happens to probably be the best in the state.
that's awesome.
But they meet in the
Best friends.
basement in the sheds.
Oh,
Right now,
Gotcha.
yeah, they're one of the, they have a basement room.
Storage.
And
And
So
while
this would give them an actual space.
that
to work in.
actually doesn't say it on there, but the trustees, which is our entity that we are representatives of, we don't even have a drawer. So what I object to from a corporate standpoint, because it is a corporation, I am the current treasurer of the board. All the corporate records are in my basement
As opposed to at the library.
because there's
no
no
place to put
room. So those are the kind of things that it's not necessary to the business of their daily business, so, but it's just not a
don't even have
smart
a
thing to do corporately. But for those, I mean, what else we gonna do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
It's just the way we've been operating.
I can at least say
So
for
if you
me,
see,
most things were making sense, like even when it said like staff offices and
Yeah.
things like that, that was all, at least for me, making sense. Again, I wasn't going through with the idea of having questions. Actually, I'm gonna ask my mom to take a look at it and see what she thinks. I think the first thing she's gonna say is the writing's too small. Like I'm gonna have to show her on my computer.
well, I was gonna say, if you get on the computer, you can blow it up.
Yeah,
No, I just thought.
Is
if
she a library
You
user?
looking at it
She has
with
been.
fresh eyes,
Right
'cause
now,
I
the
know, I
more-
look at it and I know.
I
what
think
you're
since the
talking about.
pandemic,
Right.
It's
a lot
not-
of like,
it doesn't
No,
make
I see the
sense for me
spaces,
to-
I see
checking
the-
out the remote
like, you know,
services. but I think she might be more so. Especially with the design you guys have going on here. Like,
And again, that's concept, that's
Yeah.
strictly,
I know it's just
This-
concept, but I'm just, the idea of like making it a space that you all come together. My mom is much more of an introvert than I am. So her idea would probably be going to the quiet reading room, you know, like, it's not as much about the classes.
What-
and the-
about the feasibility study, did you get that one too?
I don't know if I got the feasibility study. I have
I will send it to you right now.
library plans. I got the lookbook.
The reason I say that, the feasibility study addressed strengths and weaknesses. So a lot
Yeah,
of what
I
you
did
see
not get that.
there is,
The result.
it might help to say, okay, this is why they chose
Chose
to
this.
this, so.
Yeah, that would be great.
But like I said, I mean, it's not,
Okay,
for me, I can go sit in a facilities meeting and I know about all the details that we're talking about, but to look at this, I've been too into it, to look at it with a fresh eye.
I'm definitely a fresh eye because it is all new to me. So I will take a closer look. Again, today I was just like, I'm a graduate student and today was my last day of classes. And so this past week has been papers and presentations and stuff. I was like, great, I'm going to my first meeting. I haven't looked at this stuff. So I was literally looking at it just before I came. So that's why I say I'll take a closer look and just see what pops up.
But one thing I can, not necessarily with the plan, but this could probably gonna have to be discussed at the public hearing, whatever, at some point, is that transition while this is under construction, you know, and I know we briefly touched on it.
Mhm.
Where are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Is part of the library gonna be able to remain open and functional? Or are we gonna have to relocate and those inherent costs and everything else?
And this is something the presentation would have to cover.
I think it at least has to touch on, it, like, to
Yeah.
acknowledge it
Right,
and let
right.
the
You
questions
don't have
come.
to say
What is-
where,
what is the
but we have to
Right.
address that it will.
Yeah, you just can't, you know, because somebody's gonna ask at some point.
And consider
Right.
if there's a cost.
And are
there,
those
like if it
monies
can't-
for the move?
Right,
included in
exactly.
some of the
Cost
bond?
So that's another
That's
thing.
probably the
we-
most important
we should
thing.
as
Exactly, what-
facilities address, do they have a transition cost in there?
Mhm.
And a plan. Is there a plan for?
Right.
Well,
So
so
the last time I heard, there was somebody on this council that works for the town that has his eye on everything that goes on around here. He knows what happens. He might know
I see
a
things,
good place. to
I
find
see
space
things
to
just like
swing
that.
things.
yeah, there are probably some possibilities, maybe close.
I'll give you an
I-
idea of what other libraries have done. Meriden recently had a new library built. And they moved their temporary space to a mall
Heritage
that
Square.
had vacated,
Oh.
Old Navy vacated the mall. And they moved into that space. And it was so well received that they have a branch there now.
They have satellite now.
Ooh, that's kind of cool.
And when we did this
The
current in the 88, 89, went across the street to the senior center.
Oh, is
Yeah.
that where we
Mhm.
were in those days?
So that
before.
was extremely cramped and difficult,
Yeah.
but that was what the plan was. But and good thing or bad thing, it could be a good thing for this committee. Unfortunately, we have some empty storefronts in town and areas that you're aware of that potentially could.
And the other side of the coin is that we've learned a lot from COVID. So the virtual programming, virtual, digital library, the face of the library has changed in and of itself, but then COVID also demanded other things.
You know,
so.
and Lisa would probably have some good input on that because, the question about, well, what's staff gonna do for this couple of years transition? Are they still gonna be fully functioning? Is everybody gonna be able to, work, get paid, all those things? And again, it'll be, have that, at least acknowledge the plan, have some kind of plan that you're thinking of and, potential locations. You don't have to say,
Right.
hey, we're moving here, but have an idea of throwing things out there, because there are things, we could inquire at, we'll say, the Keeney building. They've
Is that
done,
empty?
Where is that?
right in the center.
Center.
Wouldn't that be nice?
So all the environmental remediation's been done interior. It's still a wonky mess in some places.
Is
but
it still owned by Keeney?
It is not.
No.
There's a new developer he's trying to develop it.
Mhm.
There's plenty of parking over there.
Mhm.
Also across the street, there's Best Market Plaza, where the Best Market supermarket used to be.
That would
That's a
require
big space and
demolition.
it's in rough shape. So, you know, those are just two large spaces that are
They are
close,
right in
that
the
have
center of
ample
town,
parking. Right now
Yeah.
that we could, if we need to, we can reach out to
What's the
those.
building that you always talk about, the office supply building?
Oh, OFI.
OFI, are they empty?
Not really.
That's,
No.
we'll see what happens there.
Story.
That's a
There's
good-
flexibility with all of them, from what I know, and of course, you know more than I do.
But you have to get to the point where owners don't wanna talk to you until you're gonna, you know.
Right, and
leave
then
it.
the other thing is if it's, you know, obviously if it's a town control facility or building, that's the best
Right,
case scenario.
right.
If we can find something like that, you know. Is it something where stuff is distributed, and I'm just saying this, not to get my head blown off, but through some of the potential school libraries we have, you know, we have how many schools in town? 6, whatever it is. Is it possible distributing some of the materials that and I can understand the reticence, but
Well, and all school libraries are as big as this room.
yeah, but it's an
Yeah, but-
option, maybe.
Right now, we do reach out from the library to
We
the
could
different
coordinate
schools.
programming.
So
We
we
have
could
a good
coordinate.
relationship.
that.
We have a
could
very
get
good
those.
So
relationship, so.
We could continue to support the schools, and we could do it in
Their
there rather than
space.
bringing them here.
So, Eric, do you think, when we have to acknowledge this, obviously, but we don't have to say we're gonna put it in the
No,
Joe Smith building?
no, I think you just acknowledge it and say, you know, yeah, we're looking at these spaces.
So the plan that
Potentially.
we're looking at now takes the new part of the library, the 37-year-old new part of the library down. It leaves the original
The
building.
house, yeah.
So in essence, the library will be closed
Closed.
during the
Mhm.
renovation.
That's what I
So we are
suspected.
gonna
We're
have to move
taking
things
the
out,
atrium
set
over.
up some kind of services for the community. Knock down, build up, bring it back.
And along those lines too, I know when we were doing town hall, we had portables put over across the street at Senior Center for the Transition Academy. So, and they have some space there, so that's.
Town hall was done in stages though, wasn't it? Or did the whole thing get knocked down and then?
No,
Well, they
they
left
built the
one
new building
building.
first,
Yeah.
and
Moved
then they transitioned everybody in, took down the old
Well,
building.
we can't do that because the building is where the building would be
Yeah.
because of those spots. So that's really not an option. So excuse me, the portables might be something. Depends on how, I mean, this would be a case where you really have to have library staff determine along with town, what the logistics would be of where you'd want to place certain services, circulation, et cetera. I mean, circulation might be in a storefront
Mhm.
because you can put the books there and you have somebody. Programming could be someplace else. I mean,
Could be online.
right? You know, and fortunately, or unfortunately, however you want to look at it, COVID was a huge learning experience and we gained a lot.
Right, that's what I said. We did things differently and learned a lot.
And there's also, you know, Parks and Rec has a number
I was
of
just gonna say,
rooms.
there's the community center downstairs, and if the programming is during the day, even at night, they have
Yeah.
more things that pay to use the space at night. But for the programming that's during the day, like the mom and me yoga or the story times, you know, there is potential for that, there are community
And we
rooms downstairs.
charge the library.
That's a great question.
Well, because they
I-
charge us.
Because they charge for everything.
They do. I mean, that's a discussion. Yeah, I don't know the answer to
I
that.
mean, for a while, we rented the gymnasium for our race as a base so people could come in and we had to pay.
Is
Yeah,
that
well,
a town decision? Is that a-
That's a.
Like, could the
I think
town
it's-
say while this is going on?
Well, that's
I
one I don't
think
really
that
want to get in the
Town
midst
will
of.
Talk to the Parks and Rec
Yeah.
board and
Right.
see what.
I think we
concessions
could, we'd
would
have
be,
to
you
see
know,
what they'd be willing
Even
to
like
do.
when we have the extravaganza in town, other town agencies who participate in the
They have
extravaganza.
to pay a fee.
Pay for
Pay.
tables, yeah.
So they pay the library?
No,
No,
we
no,
paid
they
them
pay
to have
Parks
a
and Rec.
table in there in the.
Well,
park.
I'm wondering with the expansion of what's going on in the library, if the exchange might be that they could use some of the space in the future. And thus the library would have to pay for space during the transition.
It's always been an ongoing.
Well, the Pandora's box.
Okay,
Yes.
just That is
I know.
spitballing.
No, you're, in a perfect world, you're absolutely right.
You're right.
I got you.
We
Unfortunately,
are so tight with space here that a couple of months ago, somebody from the outside was coming and they were gonna run some information, councils on aging and what have you, and they were gonna hold it in the senior center. They seem to have some room and what have you, and they elected to move it to a different town because we didn't have enough space to hold the meeting, nor did we have enough parking spaces between the town hall, the library, and the senior center to accommodate the draw. So I like all the ideas of everybody working together and everybody doing things, but we're hurting right now. So if we take away, because the parking that's in the library now, that will be gone during renovations, just like the town hall parking, that was gone during renovations. And if we had not leased our land, the trustee land, to build the parking lot, there would have been nothing but the strip of parking that is considered the Garfield lot right on the edge there, you know, that lower part. So I like the idea that everybody can work together and that it will all come out, you know. But today, running as we are with all the buildings as they are, we don't have enough space in this town. There's not common meeting space in this building.
Even
There's
the
not-
individual entities, the library doesn't have enough space, outside, inside. Parks and Rec is probably already bursting at the seams with the renovations. Town Hall certainly is. So it's.
So I like the idea to move, but that's not gonna be an easy answer. That's gonna be a, oh my God, how did we ever make this work kind of answer? So possibly a storefront somewhere that could have things, that has parking, that could relieve some of the pressure
Pressure,
right
yeah.
in this area during renovations would be helpful.
I love the idea, but that Meriden ended up with a branch in
Yeah.
another
yeah, it
location.
was so,
That
it
actually
was really
sounds-
so well received. And in terms of parking, one of the things that was addressed by facilities, and obviously we'll come back to this committee, was the importance of including parking within the design.
Hmm.
Because sometimes we, as a town, put out building renovations or projects or whatever without allowing for where is all this new parking going to be, or how it will be utilized. So,
Unfortunately, parking's
so-
always like at the
I
bottom.
have
of the
another
list.
Pandora's box question, so you guys let me know if we need to table that for another time, which is, I'm like, what is, and I don't know if this committee could be responsible for this at all, but what's going on in terms of public transportation that would bring people to these locations, like make it easier for people to get, so that parking maybe is not as much of an issue and it's more people with disability or difficulty traveling?
to him. Town
Is that-
council.
Is that something that's being looked at all, or?
I don't believe so,
Okay.
but then again, town may be doing it. I mean,
So-
the council
So
is
the
not.
bus routes are set by CT Transit, so
That's
it's,
statewide,
Yeah.
is that correct?
yeah.
Okay.
So we would have to reach out to Connecticut CT Transit and see where the stops are, see if, you know, they could add one, relocate one, whatever that's more amenable, whether it drops. And honestly, it's probably gonna be one that stops on Cedar Street and lets out rather than coming around, but it depends, you know.
And the other issue.
And they have.
And I realize that our buses are busy because of the schools, but we do own
Yeah, we own our own buses.
our own buses.
Hmm.
Different from other towns.
Right,
We don't
or one of like six.
contract, so
That could be
you know, that could be, you know,
Still need to-
a school bus that has certain hours
And
or
then
stops.
there's the question of drivers.
Yeah, I mean,
Or-
obviously, it's, you know, it's not an
Like I
easy.
said, it
So
was
you're
a
right,
Pandora's,
you're
but I'm just,
But you're
Parking
thinking
is-
outside the
yeah.
box, so
and I'm
that's
just thinking
good.
if parking is such a concern and we're looking at developing what's coming into the rest of the 21st, if not into the 22nd century. And we're talking about environmental concerns and all, the more better public transportation that brings into this hub center, I'm thinking could really help in terms of.
There's a lot of that kind of discussion going on in town. I think even the Arts League is looking at how they can not only draw people in, but use public transportation to make that happen. So I think the town is waking up and talking and thinking about those things.
Like, I'd love to ride my bike here.
And we do.
And they were doing a lot of the bike-friendly routes. I know that that was.
Yeah, in the town, we have an open grant to complete some sidewalk along
Yeah.
Garfield from Willard up
Oh,
and
that would
through,
be
so.
great, yeah.
That's gonna get the campus kind of set
more
once that
open
gets
to
done.
pedestrian
And then we know we have the walks on Cedar already,
Yeah.
so it's there, part of it's there. It's. And then you have an option, because I suspect whatever you do for your relocation temporarily is not gonna be able to house all your volumes anyway. So.
Well,
you're gonna have to
we're,
have some kind
and
of
we're
storage.
actually weeding,
Okay, yeah.
which is
yeah.
part of the things that, one of the things we went back at the initial Leslie Berger. And if you go back to that feasibility study,
To lead the collection.
to weed the collection, because, despite what those believe, many people still like a book.
Mhm.
So we still want the collection, but we do have, the tendency is to hang on to things.
Right, there are
and
things
not
that
weed
could
them
be-
out. So that was actually something that was first brought
It's
to us in
ongoing right now, so
2017,
there's
that they have
actually-
been working at it,
It's
bringing out the
actually being done by
shelves.
staff and
Be-
volunteers.
Yeah, so that's one of those things that's come back, and of course, then there's but it's another option, and I don't know if it will actually be referenced too much in here, but the library is more than a library of audio tapes and books and whatever. It is a collection of things. If you go in, you can get lawn games, ukuleles, I mean, there are all sorts of things you can take out. So the storage aspect of it and the collection aspect is not just sitting on a shelf. So those are things that need to be.
Stacks.
Yes, the stacks.
And the elements of this design have taken that into account.
You will see a lot of things that say multi-purpose, with the idea that the space may be great for right now for this, but tomorrow it might need to be for something else.
Or it's flexible enough that today it can be the teen game room and tomorrow it's for an adult.
You know, business meeting where somebody reserves the room.
And in our library, our community room, which what's the capacity? 6.
No, it's like 100 and something, but I
Very
wouldn't wanna put
small in the
100
scheme of
people in
things.
there.
But it's not just used by library things. You know, a condo association might have their association meeting there, or their board of directors meeting, or some other organization in town who doesn't have an office.
Yeah.
Meets there. And so it's utilized, not just our library, but any library, and we don't charge for that type of
Yeah, that's one of the things. that
usage. Libraries
keep in mind
don't.
is It's part of the charter, so it's like Parks and Rec can charge you for their gymnasium because they can.
Right.
As a free
And that's a-
library, we cannot charge for usage.
So what is this group charged specifically for doing, or are we decided we're just waiting until we get the feedback
Lauren's
before
gonna
we
send
move
it.
on? Because the other things we're
Send us
talking
a
about are
draft.
important, like
Right.
Yeah,
We're gonna get the ball rolling. Lauren's
Yeah.
gonna send us a draft. We're gonna send that on to the library about the deadlines and what the responsibilities are. And take it
So-
from there.
looking at your meeting schedule, we have said every 2 weeks, so your next meeting would be the 9th, but we're going to meet on the 23rd to receive the presentation from the library board. Do we want to cancel the meeting on the 9th, or do you want to potentially hold it and have it be a walking tour for the people
Well,
in this
that-
committee who have not?
That
seen it
might
already?
be that, we'd have to check with the library to see if, because the person to show you is Lisa, or if not Lisa, Karen.
Yeah.
To give you the full-blown problems that they encounter on a day-to-day basis, so you have an understanding of the space. My recommendation would be to hold that meeting, but that would be mine. I mean, like I said, I don't personally need the meeting, but I do think it
I mean,
would be something.
is it something more simple just to plan it as the walking tour? That's the meeting?
And that's the
Yeah.
meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And so you don't need a quorum for
Right,
that.
that's what I'm getting at.
We won't take any
Because we
motion,
know
we
it's-
won't take any action, it'll just be we do have to notice it to the public because you are a public entity
Yeah.
and invite them technically along.
It would hurt my
Fine.
feelings to have them.
I know the council has been doing them recently.
Yes.
For
Yeah.
various different reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
walking
and
walking
a
around
lot
the
of new
mountain
members
yesterday.
Also, right?
Yeah, well, there are a lot of new things coming
Yeah.
up that require
As
going,
the-
so we've been holding meetings and we have to have an agenda and we have to say, here we are, then is there public around and then just do the tour
Yeah.
with any explanation of Cedar Crest, we
As
just
I-
had a lengthy walk.
Come up with questions. Should I email the invite for this meeting? Or is there a particular person I should send them to?
Questions?
Just because we're saying May 9th is gonna be a walking tour, so I was gonna go back through this. I'm already developing some of my questions.
So the facilities can address those.
Yeah.
Should I just send them to you? Or should I send them to the whole group?
You can do either, but just as a caution to the whole group. We can't reply to you in a way that insinuates that we're asking anybody to make decisions, because then that triggers an illegal meeting. So if you want
All I
to keep
just wanna
everybody
do is-
informed, of
yeah.
like, here are my questions,
Mhm.
and then we would all just know what we need to review with you, or maybe somebody can call you after getting the email and say, hey, saw your questions, here are some of those
You can
answers.
even
Well, I
just
think-
pose it as comments,
Yeah,
not even
Yeah,
questions.
yeah.
Here are some comments.
Okay,
Kind of
But
situation.
to this entity, to this group.
But then you can take it.
and you can call her and say, let's get a coffee. and
well, even if it gets
questions.
addressed in what we
Yeah.
get presented on May
Yeah, 'cause
23rd, that's fine.
Some of them may
Mine
not
is
be
just- yeah.
facilities director, yeah.
Mine are
Yeah.
just comments or questions as I go through this
I
with that
think
in mind.
because you're the fresh set of eyes, it would be helpful to have those sooner rather than later. And if it's something that we're like, oh, we've got to, we, the library board, should be taking that up with our, facilities group and the team, the Berger and Berman team. So
I mean, I can tell you what some of them are right now, or I can email it after this if you'd rather, either way.
Sure, question.
Okay, so one of them, and it may be in here, guys, again, I did not go through this as clear, but I'm wondering about the disability accessibility, that can be called out, like how people get to the other floors, like,
Yeah.
what is the
That's been
access into
addressed.
the.
I'm sure with
And
the
that's-
architect, they.
Yeah.
I'm sure they
hit all
have.
the ADs.
I'm,
So there
I
are-
just
there
wasn't.
are
Right,
certain.
that's
to the
like,
building, there's
you
an
must
elevator
do
inside
this.
the
Yeah.
building, and everything is,
Yeah.
it has to be ADA
Yeah,
compliant.
That's awesome.
So
Has to be
library is
included.
already, so it would be expanded, yep.
So the other thing is like, people who are walking to or biking to, I'm wondering what, like, I think I'm seeing, sidewalks on here,
Yes.
but like, just looking at this picture, I think this is the town hall.
Yes.
And there's
that's-
crosswalks this way, but there's no crosswalks
There's,
Yes,
from.
there's a
So
plan.
Maybe there is nothing.
Yeah.
so I've already brought this to facilities attention, because I, as a staff member, have, just ideas about having midway crosswalks. I think that will be done before this gets
Awesome.
done.
Yeah.
It is already on our radar that there is there is a crosswalk, just so you know, it's not on the
Up there.
picture
Yes.
here. But we have to, and there is one.
There's one up across from the door. too.
Yes, so the
Okay.
front doors, there's one
There is
way
one there.
over here,
Okay.
but throughout the day, I see a lot of people crossing here.
And that would be the new entrance if that
And-
design were to come
Yeah.
through. So
That
it
is
would have to
come
be
before
there.
the council as well,
Yeah.
and there are monies there, I
Yeah.
believe, to take care of that.
Yeah,
So it's in process.
The other thing, and again, maybe in here, maybe already considered was, if people do bike here, where do they lock their bikes?
We have
Like
bike racks
parking.
now, so I'm sure.
Yeah.
parts-
And again, I haven't
If they're
done
not
it.
included in this, it's something we could.
This is conceptual.
Yep.
And some of the drawings, like even when they do the drawings, like you didn't see the parking spaces drawn in there. So those are some of the things we try to ask for so that people can have
But we
that.
do
that,
have
but-
bike racks now.
But there would be bike racks.
Okay.
There would be, you know.
And
all
I'm
of those
figuring they
things.
are covered. Again, these are like the things that I just started thinking about. And then the other one that we kind of mentioned was, I'm thinking about being in the 21st century, if there's thoughts to making gender neutral bathrooms with like, like, changing rooms that are available to
Right.
all
we're going to
genders
ask
and stuff.
For incorporation from the architect for, in a revised drawing.
And those are things that we can ask to be incorporated, but as I mentioned before, as we move forward with the process and as a building committee is
Right.
putting it together, they will have to address those.
Yes.
Yes, totally cool.
And they
These
will.
were just the things that I thought of as we were like,
No, they're
here.
perfect. This is
So,
good. As I said, you're looking at it. I've
Yeah.
read this too many times.
Yeah, and a lot of it, like I said, I'll keep looking, but you guys may have already covered it, but these were just the things that I thought of.
It's good practice for us because we have looked at it and things change, since the time that we
Yeah.
start to the time we go through, there's so many things that you don't think of. as it goes through, you know, we're trying to solve the problems that we have today. And we know that flexibility is key. But specific things like gender-free bathrooms or family rooms, you know, scattered throughout, incorporated more, that's not something that was part of, our everyday
Every-
conversation 5 years ago or 7 years ago when it started. So, you know, now that everybody's become a little bit more aware and knowing what happens and what goes on, and those are things that we.
The reason I asked about accessibility is I actually was outside of Long Island City where they had just beautiful, I mean, in New York City, it's like costs so much money, brand new library. One of the biggest things, and I just wrote this down, was soundproofing, because people had a hard time being inside that library. It was gorgeous to look at, but every little noise carried throughout the building. And people couldn't get in, there were elevators inside, but if somebody was disabled, it was hard for them to get in. And this was something built, I mean, it opened in like 2019. We're not
They
talking,
should know better.
Yeah.
So one of the things, just to share with you what the board had gone through, and we had the architectural design, and we wanted open, flexible, light, friendly, space. And we ended up with 2 large atriums from the first to second floor, and the library said, no, 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 no. That's
noise
too
issue.
open. So 2 things. First, primarily is the noise issue. Secondarily is climate control. And then the third, or maybe you could put it in the other rows, we did not want to lose that square footage to
Open
an
space.
atrium.
Yeah.
You know, we
Wasted
needed that.
space.
So we needed to get a light in and to come through the library without having to have the atrium. So, you know, to that point, and it is noisy. I mean, we know that just from the small atrium that we have now. As that goes through.
And there are other things too that have played in from the facilities at the library and the library board itself, as well as the people who work there.
Where,
We're very nervous, some of the things that were built in, we're fine about solar panels. But we don't want skylights because the leaks that we have encountered over there have been a huge problem, not only in terms of, you know, the leak. We've had damage, we've had issues, and then it's always leaking. It doesn't matter. So,
yeah,
we
what's
were-
the green on top?
well, that was the architect's rendering to make it more green building was to do this. You could potentially do, you know, again,
Natural,
whether it could be,
current.
it could be a patio, it could be, I mean, we've had lots of things thrown at us, like put a planet, what do you call it, telescope up there. I mean, there are people who've mentioned some very unique things that could happen, but, you know, there are prejudices that have, or opinions that travel up through this facilities committee based on our track record and experience there. So some of the things that you will see, that's, I mean, nothing is neutral. It comes with background.
And eventually cost is going to come.
That's
into it.
right.
That's
That's
gonna
where
be
it
there.
comes down to. I mean,
That's
you,
what it-
we love to have a telescope, but I don't, you know, is that
you'll
gonna
have to
be
get somebody
something?
to donate that for
That's
you.
right.
Yeah.
You want your name on
It's
that?
not only that, it's access to that room.
Access
safety
That's
for the
right. I
children.
mean, it's not
Liability
really just
aspect
going.
of it.
That's
Yeah.
right.
How many 11-year-olds am I gonna allow on the roof to look through that telescope?
Mhm.
in the
Without-
dark?
Right, I mean, there's.
At what time?
It
At
opens
what
an
time are you
entirely different can of worms. It's great to throw concepts out there, and that's sometimes what happens is we have all these concepts. I think what you've seen thus far and what facilities has been trying to do is to make it certainly innovative, but realistic.
Where can I ask, because I don't see it on here, prominently. Is there an elevator?
Yes.
Yes.
There is.
Okay, we're very tiny print.
Yeah, it is tiny.
I show you because I kind of know where it is.
Yeah, okay,
Usually I can pick it out from
yeah, it's
architectural, but
Not familiar with the architectural.
Over by the children's area.
It's near children's.
We have one now. We wouldn't
Yeah.
build a new
I'm
building
sure.
without-
well, these are stairs.
Yep, those are
These
stairs.
these are labeled as storage, so, or closet size.
Yeah.
That's the librarian's
Are
office.
those, is that where they were? I think that's the
25,
elevator.
it says staff, so I don't know.
No. But
Doesn't
this
have the
is in
elevator in
front of-
there?
I didn't see others, so that's.
That may not be the most recent one, but
That's
it
fine.
is,
I
over there.
suspect
It's a
it's fine.
new, it's a new place.
I mean, I see the janitor's closet. but not the
No, that's
elevator.
fine, just
So we
curious.
Yeah.
did, we did have.
And
it
that's
in
why
the-
I asked it too, because
Well,
I was like,
and
I didn't
actually,
see it.
the place to look at is if you go to the basement drawing, you can see it better because it goes to the basement.
Right.
That makes
Yeah, there's an
sense.
elevator machine room, so I'm assuming there's an elevator.
Okay.
Well, there's.
Elevator
there's
machine.
current.
Two.
Oh, there's
See there?
two,
And
okay.
there,
So they're
Alright, so
next. Oh,
this
that's-
is the old
might
one
be
that's in
easier.
place currently, and these would be in the new portion. Yeah,
That's fine.
I see them now.
yes,
They're just not marked.
but it's easier to see in the
Yep.
basement.
Yep.
Yeah, the base one.
I see the room next door to them and then now I can see them in the other
Yeah,
places.
And there is already.
But that might be something we want to mark for people who are looking at a concept in the future.
Oh, and the elevator, if we maintain the old portion of the library, whatever, that elevator is currently there. If you go to the basement, that currently runs through all the floors. So that would remain, yes.
Gotcha. Cool. And thank you guys for sharing so much with me.
Welcome.
All right, so we'll keep the May 9th meeting. I'll reach out to Lisa though, and make sure that that time will work for a walkthrough. If not, I will get back to everybody with what times are available for a walkthrough for your next meeting. I will work on a draft for tomorrow of the letter to go to the library board for what we expect to see in that deadline of May 17th. And we will plan on reviewing that at your May 23rd meeting. Okay, all right. Anything else before we go to public comment? Public comment, Diane?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to help answer some questions and stuff throughout. I appreciate that. And look forward to the walkthrough. I think it's very eye-opening if you haven't been there before and when you hear the statistics. So it's, I mean, it would open your eyes if you just walk through it. We gave you a pass key and you walk through from top to bottom.
Have
When
you been, Lauren?
Yeah.
hear-
Yeah.
When you hear about how many people do what space and how long, that makes it even more incredible. So I think our staff is outstanding. I think the maintenance on the library has been outstanding. So the first impression when you come in, it's kind of like, it's all behind the curtain, right? Nobody understands what it takes to run it or what happens behind that. So I think it's eye-opening. But-
One of my most eye-opening ones was when I first, being on the board, I went behind the surf desk, which at the time was
Mhm.
even crazier because they had so many things going on. But I walked in and there was the copier to one side and all these little ups. And then there's all these carts.
Yeah.
And the staff is trying to work and it's like, oh, okay. And then there is the IT stuff falling out of the wall that all the.
We don't
you know,
even have a
cheating
separate server.
Yeah.
It's just, all you see are open servers and
It's an open-
wires.
it's an open
and-
route.
Yeah, because that was really kind of a retrofit.
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, there was no
But that's
space.
where that's what we're talking about,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right?
And in the, behind the circ desk, that's where everything happens. It's shipping, it's receiving, it's sorting, it's bringing new books in, labeling, it just goes on and
It's the
on and
book
on.
hospital.
You got, yeah.
Yeah.
Plus staff offices that
Well,
are here.
I actually wanted to be on this committee just because I think libraries are so incredibly important. And I really do see them as a way to be like a hub for community. So I'm very happy that they were able to accommodate me with this, because
So,
I'm supposed to be on another committee, but I haven't heard, so.
so
Maybe
we'll
it's just this
remember
one.
that when this committee is disbanded and
I haven't
we
heard
need a
anything
new
from-
corporate member.
No, this
I'm not
is-
ignoring, I just haven't gotten
This
anything.
is great. I'm so glad that you're here and that you're excited about it and excited about the library.
Yeah.
I think that it truly is. Now I'm gonna go all the way back to Marie, a former board member.
Mm.
It is the gem of the town.
Yeah.
People come in, many times it's their introduction to Newington.
She said
Yeah.
it was the best public relations vehicle that the town of Newington had.
Well, my mom, one of the reasons she was happy when she moved here is she always goes, my mom's a former army brat herself, and then she was an army wife. So she's moved a lot of places.
Mhm.
For the library.
She goes to the library. It's the first place she goes, and it sets the tone for whether or not she wants to be in a place and how it's gonna be. And so, yeah, it was
So we
the
passed.
library, the library is part of the reason that she decided to be here. I do want to tell you all that I'm really excited. I will be here in May. Like I said, starting May 23rd, I will be remote. And I'm doing a fellowship in Spain over the summer. So I will be remote from
Later
day
day.
on. Yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that I didn't know when I applied that the fellowship was even an
Well,
opportunity.
The summer may be a moot.
Right.
Yeah.
It may be more council action and you
That's-
can watch
okay.
and act with that.
That's totally fine. I just wanted to let you guys know if there's
But we
anything that I
can go to
can
Spain
do.
and meet with you.
You're welcome to-
$35,000.
We got.
I'm still trying to figure out where I'm
Get
gonna
us
live there, so it's like,
I'm family there, we'll stay with that.
I'll be in Madrid. I'm doing a fellowship with the Council of World Women Leaders. And it's at Club de Madrid, which is an organization of like 90 different countries,
Mhm.
former leaders from the US. The one I saw was Bill Clinton is a member. And they do like research and think tank kind of stuff on different topics. And one of them is like the digital age, what's happening and how digital is impacting democracy. Another is they're looking at the environmental impact and how environment.
What is your graduate degree in?
Social work. I'm getting my graduate degree in social work, and I'm focusing on a program that combines the clinical with the public policy and leadership, management, entrepreneurship kind of aspect. So, which is what a lot of my experience is in. So I'm excited to be doing it. I was excited to do this, so I'm like torn a little bit, but I just wanted to let you guys know I'm
Yeah,
not.
again,
letting it-
summer, it should be off our plate.
It should be off our
But
plate.
Theoretically.
But the council is also has. to be
Yes,
on it.
I have attended one council where I was just listening, you know, and I did it via Zoom.
You can catch up a lot too on the Newington's YouTube, right? Newington's
Yes.
YouTube,
Yeah.
that's where it is.
You can
Don't go
watch
to
the last
NCTV,
meeting.
go to
yeah.
Newington's. And you can
Okay.
see past meetings or things like that.
Are you Spanish speaking?
I am. My family's from
That's
Puerto
a good
Rico
thing.
originally, but I'm also French speaking, so,
Oh, you'll have a blast.
okay. And
Have you
I
gone to the Portuguese club?
Americans who
I
stumbles
have not
through.
been to the Portuguese
You
club.
need to be there, they've renovated it, it's just spectacular.
Where is the Portuguese club?
It's on,
730 North Mountain Road.
thank you.
Okay.
They had a fire by Jan.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. burn
Oh,
They
that's
have- they have-
Yanni's.
They
Okay.
finally have done.
I have no
all
idea.
the
I've been to
construction,
Yanni's.
the whole thing.
I've been to Yanni's.
When I cheer,
Gorgeous.
no, it's
Yeah, if you go
farther
to
down
Hartford
like
Avenue.
the golf.
Going
Across
towards
from
that.
Saginaw.
But if you
Towards
were, if you were
Avery.
here, you head to
That.
Yanni's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Up Hartford
Okay,
Ave.
all right,
Yeah,
No.
go around that road and you'll
Okay.
find it.
Okay, I'll look
But
for
you
it.
said your family's Puerto
Puerto
Rican.
Rican, yeah. Yeah, my family's from Puerto Rico, and so, spoke Spanish at home, definitely.
So you'll understand all the Spanish, but your accent will be wrong.
Well, yeah, well, the thing about it is the number one artist in the world is Bad Bunny, who's from Puerto
Right,
Rico. So my accent is actually the accent that they're like, what is he saying? And then I can tell them, I don't know either,
Yeah.
Company
because he mumbles.